Okay, this is piece 116, The Saint Lazare Station by Claude Monet, 1877, oil on canvas. Oftentimes we're used to seeing Claude Monet's outside scenes of haystacks and water lilies and his garden at Giverny, but this is a year in 1877 where he spent some time at this train station. Claude Monet, in terms of context, is considered the father of Impressionism, and that name Impressionism is derived from this piece, which he titled Impression Sunrise. The word Impressionism is a pretty derogatory term. When artists make a painting, they sometimes create an impression beforehand, a sketch, if you will. And so the art critic Louis Leroy, who saw this piece on show at one of the Impressionism shows, he said that wallpaper was more complete than this piece, that this was a mere impression. So more context is that in 1877, when Claude Monet was painting the Saint Lazare station, he was showing us an image of the modern world. Paris was changing and people traveled by trains. The Industrial Revolution of 1750 meant a lot of transformation of society, and trains was one of the inventions that came out of the Industrial Revolution. This is Claude Monet's piece. I forgot its name, but it shows us an impression of a Roman bridge here with the Industrial Revolution and the belching out of smokestacks in the background. And this is a modern day picture of the same Saint Lazare station in France. And just like back in 1877, trains are stored in sheds. These are sheds. They're little more closed in than the shed that we are seeing in our painting. But trains that have to belch out smoke, steam, they can't be kept, indoors in a completely enclosed environment. So that's explains the architecture in our piece. And then the other, and so here is Claude Monet got special permission to paint at the Saint Lazare station. He did 12 different views from the station, inside, outside, and this is our piece right here. In terms of forms, I already mentioned that trains are kept in a shed, but if we look here on our image, the shed is shown. Now it's not realistically or perfectly realistically rendered. It is a bit of an impression. We have the trains belching out this steam. That's the prettiest steam I've ever seen, or coal, smoke. And then the smoke just covers that architecture right there. It softens it up. And then the other component is light, and the light shines through this glass up here at the roof of the shed, and the light shines through the shed down here on the ground. And this is what Monet's canvases look like. You can see it very easily when you see his pieces in person, or even in these pictures, you'll see it. So in terms of form, we have trains, people, buildings that are just impressions. For example, this engine right here, had he painted it 100% realistically, we would see it just, for what it was, but we can still see it for what it is, even though he's got an impression, he's got all this smoke around it. Same is true of this apartment building back here. Although it's not perfectly rendered, exactly realistically, we can make it out. We can still get the impression of it. And then in terms of content, this is considered more a study of color and light than a description of machines or travelers in detail. So here's an up close of the people in our St. Lazare station, and you can see that they're really quick brush strokes. They're not rendered in perfection, but we make out that these are people in a train station. And one critic said, "I couldn't see the subject. The steam was in the way." And you can get that feeling. Here's the steam. And so, who are these people back here? They're kind of hidden by the steam. So in terms of content, Claude Monet in his pieces really always focuses on light. You can see that here in Water Lilies. This is a massive piece on this wall. It's about 50 feet wide, and then the wall behind, there's another Water Lilies that's about 30 feet wide. But in all of these, he changes the color to give us the feel of light. And in terms of just working that canvas, you can see these kind of dabbing on paints here. When you look at it close up, you can't make out exactly what it is. It's not until you stand further back that you can get the feeling that it's water lilies. Here's another example of his use of light. This is his Haystacks series, or 4 of them. He had, I think there were 16 in the set. But you can see different seasons, different times of day. We see the use of light, the play of light on the haystacks. The subject doesn't move, but the light and the color is what he is master of. Same is true of the Rouen Cathedral. Same exact object, different times of day, different seasons. And here you can really make out just the kind of globs, dabbing of paint here, mixing paint colors together on the canvas. And you make that out here as well. So the function is that Claude Monet is not trying to give us a perfect rendition of the station, the apartment building, or of the people. He's giving us an impression of modern life, and he is breaking from history and classical art in that he's not telling us a history story, and he's not using the classical forms of art here. So a total transformation in painting by Claude Monet in 1877 in this oil on canvas titled The St. Lazare Station.